This is Newport Beach, one of the more popular Orange County beach resorts. Inhabitants of the city number a little over 50,000, with the population gaining half again that much in the summer months. But since the turn of the century, when the city was first established as a beach resort, Newport has faced an annual problem. In late summer on the northwest beaches, currents wash the sand away, sometimes bringing on catastrophic conditions. Newport Marine Safety Director Robert Reed explains the vulnerability of these beaches.
What we have in Newport is a very interesting problem in that we have sand beaches facing in many directions. For instance, our Corona del Mar beaches face to quite a degree southerly. These are not quite so southerly from the channel entrance extending up here near the Newport Pier, but are generally southerly. But the West Newport beaches face in a more westerly direction, and these beaches up near the Santa Ana River attempt to regain that southern exposure. Now, if we were to look at these two solid blue lines, this one and this one, and extrapolate them on out into a southerly direction, we would then see that our major source of wave energy comes from that direction, and that then is what we call the field of exposure.
I see.
Now, the Corona del Mar main beach is very stable, facing into that field of exposure. The Balboa beaches are adequately stable because they face almost into it. The unstable zone is that which is in West Newport, facing away from this field of exposure. And yet now, the Santa Ana River area, and that immediately south of it, is mostly stable, trying to, again, face back into that source of wave energy.
George Zabal, a consulting geologist, put it this way.
We have two wave sets. The higher energy set comes in from the southerly direction, as a result of Mexican chubascos and South Pacific storms. The beach up and take the sand up off Huntington Beach. In the wintertime, we have a lower energy wave sets from extratropical storms in the northern Pacific that tend to bring in westerly waves. These waves tend to bring sand back to Newport Beach. So the whole beach erosion problem is based on this multidirectional factor.
But now, why is Newport losing sand? Newport Beach Mayor Don McGinnis answers that question.
The actual problem started many years ago when people started damming off the source of the raw material of sand, which is historically come from the Santa Ana River during the winter storms, and have replenished the beach then during the winter. The beach has always, in West Newport particularly, come and gone. The beach washes out historically in the summertime and late fall, and goes back up again in the wintertime from the winter storms. And as the years went on, and as the river was dammed off more and more and more, less and less sand came down the river to replenish the beaches. And the measurements that were taken over a number of years indicated that each year the sand came and went, that there was a net loss of beach width as a result of that.
Back in the 20s and 30s, high tides, along with the conditions just explained, caused moderate property damage along the beachfront. Only homes built on pilings remained standing. It wasn't until the middle 60s when homes were threatened again. Most of the sand was washed away in 1 week. Mayor McGinnis is a resident in the stricken area. His property sustained minor damage.
There were a number of homes in the 40th to 41st Street area that were partially undermined. We lost here at this place. We lost half of the patio. We had a brick wall around the patio, which was undermined, and half the patio fell in. Fortunately, our house is one of the few on the beach that is built on pilings, so we were probably never in too much danger of losing the house up to some reasonable point. However, it's my opinion based on what I saw and the situation as it was existing at that time. If it had not been stopped, it probably would have gone back as far as Seashore Drive and perhaps even beyond, and the total damage to private property as well as the damage to public property would have been run into the millions of dollars.
Reed gives his viewpoint of the origination and intensity of the storms that struck in 1965.
We had surf arriving here from probably 32 different storms which occurred both in the southern hemisphere. In the region generally between Santiago, Chile and Wellington, New Zealand, as well as storms occurring in the northern hemisphere off the Mexican coast. All these generated surf which came to Newport, approaching it from a southerly direction. And that was enough to be concurrent with almost every high tide we had that year. And therefore, that very heavy energy was spent close upon the beach and created the very serious erosion problem.
It wasn't long until the city and the residents began sandbagging. But what should happen in case of another storm? The Army Corps of Engineers moved in with earth movers and bulldozers. The Army in 1949. Their conclusion then was to build a system of jetties.
The ocean waters and the adjacent beach next to them are under the cognizance of the Corps of Engineers. Well, that public agency is the one that's responsible for determining what is the proper method. The longshore current that's created by the south swells, which is the action that actually removes the beach, had to be stopped somehow.
Under almost all of what studies have been undertaken by the Army so far, I believe that their thought is that in order to get as much control for the dollar spent, that the groining system is that which has a tendency to control it at its best. So therefore, as you've been viewing out along our beach here, a series of groins are being constructed in order to mitigate this uninterrupted flow of littoral transport moving up coast and conversely down coast.
Now the groin system is near completion. Tons of rocks have been trucked in and deposited on the beach. Don McGinnis and Bob Reed discussed the effectiveness of the new erosion barrier. First, Mayor McGinnis.
Since the groins have gone in, of course, we haven't come anywhere near close to losing any more property as a result of erosion. The groins have been very effective in stopping the longshore current. The beach still comes and goes, as it always has, and it always will, but not to the same degree because the longshore current has been stopped.
We're all aware that we have not had the incessance of surf since they have been constructed. Therefore, it is my opinion they are yet to be put to the real test.
Geologist George Zabal talks about another solution to the erosion problem.
The groins will do a good job in stopping beach erosion, but they will do an even better job in preventing the return of sand to Newport Beach. It is my opinion that a series of offshore reefs would probably be more effective for the simple reason that they would cut off the energy of the southerly swell waves, hence preventing beach erosion, to a somewhat similar extent that the groins will, but they will not interfere at all with the return of sand by westerly wave.
I don't think anybody disagrees that an offshore under the water reef properly engineered would be preferable to groins. The problem is that, again, and when you fool with Mother Nature, you better be sure you're right, is that you can't be sure you're right because it is not an exact science. If you make a mistake, you have really made a beauty, and you could be setting up a situation out there where you would actually speed up the erosion process rather than eliminate it. The thing that's absolutely necessary, in my mind, before anybody monkeys with an offshore under is that the thing be modeled on a hydrographic model.
You know, if you read the Corps of Engineers reports, you will discover that the groins themselves are a life-size type experiment. If one goes into a new type of erosion control device, like a series of en-echelon offshore reefs, one would have to test these in a model basin. It is my opinion, and it's my firm opinion, that a model basin of the Newport Beach shoreline and the Back Bay area is an absolute necessity to get to the root of both of these problems. I'm sorry I brought in the latter complication, but I think that a single model basin could be used for both purposes.
We hope this program has informed the public of the problems with erosion that face this community. Newport is only a small example of many coastline problems. With extensive and comprehensive coastline studies, problems such as this one may soon be eliminated.